Jedi Fallen Order was the first single-player Star Wars game to come out from EA since they acquired the license back in 2013. Coincidentally, it was also their only Star Wars game up to that point that wasn't full of controversy. Let's see if there's anything EA could learn from this, like maybe releasing more than 4 Star Wars games after 8 years with the license. And no, you don't count Galaxy of Heroes.
You suck!
You play as Cal Kestis, who works in the scrapyard controlled by the Galactic Empire. While working, an accident occurs and Cal saves his friend's life by using the Force. Turns out the Empire doesn't really like Jedi, so Cal tries to escape and ends up getting rescued by Seer Gunda and Grease Driftus. Seer was a Jedi who knew Cal's master before the Empire Order 66'd all of them, and Grease is her trusty pilot, so this sets you on your journey to rebuild the Jedi Order. The core of the game is combat, supplemented with exploration as you journey from planet to planet. The combat is weighty, so you have to be decisive with your attacks. Learning the length of attack animations is crucial, as it has to finish before you can do anything else. Learning the attack patterns of enemies is key to defeating them. If you're not careful, you can be killed in just a few attacks from the stronger ones. Some will even have a shield gauge which you have to break through before you can deal damage to their actual health bar. The basic attack comes out fast but doesn't do a lot of damage, while the heavy force attack is slower but deals more damage if you know there's an opening for it. The force abilities and attacks are very useful in certain scenarios, but do use up your force meter, which gets recharged by hitting enemies. There's also an upgradable skill tree that gives you both new attacks and passive upgrades to force abilities and character buffs, which you unlock with skill points. You get skill points from killing enemies, so it sort of acts like your level. This ensures you get stronger with new buffs and attacks as you progress through the game, which scales well with the stronger enemies introduced later on. In order to spend your skill points, you have to find a meditation point in the environment, which also saves your progress and gives you the option to heal at the cost of making all of the enemies respawn. If you die during combat, you'll respawn back at the meditation point, but do get to keep collectibles and upgrades you found before you died. Then if you go back and hit the enemy that killed you, you regain whatever skill point XP you lost and get full health and force power.
This will not stop me.
I'm used to more action-y fighting games, so I didn't realize how much I'd have to rely on blocking, parrying, and dodging to win fights, but having a defensive playstyle turned out to be much easier. Parrying opens up enemies to counterattacks, while blocking keeps you from taking damage and allows you an opening while the enemy recovers. Just be sure to watch how much block you have left. The dodges are effective in this defensive playstyle since moving around a lot makes you a difficult target. The faster evade type dodge comes out quick but only moves you a short distance, while the dodge roll is slow but covers a lot of ground. When enemies turn red, it means their next attack cannot be blocked or parried, so dodging is the only option, giving them an even larger use. You learn new force abilities and traversal skills at specific points throughout the game through a flashback section from when Cal was training to be a Jedi with his old master. The new skills give you more options during combat and add some variety to the platforming sections. After exploring around Dathomir, you'll find a double-bladed lightsaber much like Darth Maul's. You can pick between the single or double blade at any time, as they both have different strengths and weaknesses. The single blade is more effective for one-on-one encounters as it does more damage per hit, while the double blade is better at crowd control since the attacks cover a larger area. The double blade also specializes in parrying ranged attacks, as it's much easier, and if you parry one bullet, you'll automatically parry the rest as long as you're holding block, which works well for enemies that shoot a lot of bullets. There's always a risk and reward balance playing out as you figure out which attacks and dodges will work best for which scenarios, and each fight feels different since multiple enemy types can fight you at the same time, and there's a surprising amount of unique enemy types throughout the whole game. There are several boss fights in the game, but they aren't the main focus like other Souls-like games. Instead, they act as capstones to areas or key fights to plot points. The boss fights are the best part of the game as each fight is climactic and encourages the use of every skill at your disposal. If there's one thing Star Wars consistently gets right, it's the world design. Every planet looks unbelievably real and the creatures feel like they evolved there. When you're not in combat, you're exploring the planet in search of new unexplored areas, both to progress the story and find collectibles. You have a map that you regularly rely on to show you unexplored areas, your current objective, save points, and which areas are blocked or accessible, all on an intuitive, easy-to-read layout. The platforming and climbing sections felt good, but it was more of a means to an end. There's There are these really epic set-piece moments that feel amazing to play through, but those were an exception rather than the rule. More platforming elements are added over time, but the combat was always the highlight for me. There's a few simple puzzles as well, and you have to use the planet's unique gimmick along with your force powers to solve them. Exploring would have felt more worthwhile if there were better collectibles and upgrades. There are a few useful things that help you in-game, but the vast majority of collectibles are either cosmetic or just extra lore.
Wookiee warriors left this. They used this place as a hideout in their battle against the Empire.
You do unlock more traversal options as you progress, so movement gets better and better over time. With your new movement and force abilities, you can reach new areas you couldn't get to before, much like a Metroidvania. You'll regularly go back to previously visited planets to further explore and progress the story by reaching these new areas on the large, intricately designed planets. BD-1 is your droid companion that helps you out during this exploration and in combat. He can scan things in the environment, which is part of the lore collectibles I was talking about. Throughout the game, he gets the ability to hack things, allowing you to move the environment around so you can reach otherwise inaccessible areas. His best use is to heal you during combat with stims, which you can collect. You have to time your stim properly as it has to go through an animation, much like the rest of your attacks.
Draw stim!
My biggest problem with the game is that it's strangely unoptimized, as my computer is well above the recommended specs, but I still had framerate issues in the more open environments and when entering new areas. You'd think the game would perform better, especially almost 2 years after launch. The game has amazingly realistic graphics apart from some weird looking character models, but it's nothing my PC shouldn't have been able to handle. As always with Star Wars, the audio design is top notch. The lightsaber sounds, all the creature noises, and the subtle adventurous score are perfect, so I really have no complaints there. EA's had problems in the past with the Star Wars license, but Jedi Fallen Order is their diamond in the rough. The game is paced wonderfully with Cal's ever-growing moveset via the skill tree and traversal options that scale alongside your familiarity with the game's mechanics. The diverse set of environments and enemies ensured combat and exploration was always visually interesting. Rewards for exploration could have been handled a bit better, but I was driven to explore by my own curiosity simply because of how beautiful each environment was. The story, although fairly straightforward, was well done, giving meaning to your interplanetary adventures. The game may have a few rough edges, but it's a modern Star Wars classic in my book, and I can't wait to see where the future of single-player Star Wars games goes next. Thanks for watching, and be sure to like and subscribe to see more videos like this in the future.